It was surprising to me that the stuff that we are doing and almost everyone is doing now, this mainstream type of training, is like it has history of about 100 years or 150, depends on how you look at it. You have an exercise for your bicep, you have an exercise for your deltoid, you have an exercise for your chest. Like that was not the case when we go 100 years back. The idea that you could be isolating these different areas in the body, that was like incredible invention that took the entire culture like leaps forward from there.
Before, they didn't even think bodybuilding was like a smart thing to do. My father, who used to be a lumberjack, like he would always come to me and say like why are you doing this? Let's just go like chop some wood, do some woodwork or something like this. Like what's the point of this? Why would I do some silly exercises to build my muscle when I can do something practical and something functional?
The idea is funny because my obsession with the looks and aesthetics came from somewhere like hundreds of years ago, from the Greek guys who built statues, through Eugen Sandow to the golden era to me. So it's like a crazy thing that sort of thing travels with you.
I think modern bodybuilding, it tells a lot about how the human society has developed over the 150 years, because it has become more and more focused on the superficial aspect, aesthetics, and more on the appearance, when in the past it was all about functionality.
So what was very striking to me when I got into like bodybuilding styles training, for example, and I realized that the history of where these modern training styles go, what almost everyone is doing at the gym, it's not that long. It's like 100 to 150 years old back. And see, during these times, I checked, we have already, for example, famous guys like Arnold, and when I watched the Pumping Iron, I got to know, Franco Columbo and Frank Zane and Robbie Robinson. It was like the bodybuilding has really matured, and even during that time there was the Jay Cutlers and Ronnie Colemans and even these mass monsters. And I started to, when I got more and more into this, I started to look back into the history, and I could find, bodybuilders from every decade. You could find like big names, popular guys, and the combining factor here was that they were all were focused on the aesthetics of it. They all had a great looking body, they have very developed muscles, and they were doing, most of them were doing some type of similar even exercises. Of course, there were different training styles, but back squat, bench presses, overhead presses, these isolation exercises were all present there. So I just went back every decade. There's the Steve Reeves, you have the Krimek, you have like all these guys, and then finally there's the Eugen Sandow, that's his stage name then, who is considered like the father of modern bodybuilding actually. And this guy was basically, became famous during the very early 1900s or 20th century, and he was born in the 18th century. But after that, if we look at the very last decades of the 18th century, or no, it's 19th century, I guess, 1800s. So that is where it kind of ends, the lineage. Like there's a clear lineage of people who do bodybuilding and developing these styles, and even the strongman training and powerlifting gets developed on the way. And then it's like there's of course there is a teacher, but the training methods as we know them nowadays, they sort of end there. And so I started to look at it was surprising to me that the stuff that we are doing and almost everyone is doing now, this mainstream type of training, is like it has history of about 100 years or 150, depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, if you look at the history, even the invention of the barbell, it was around 1860 or something like this. So it's even the most used, or one of the most used tools in bodybuilding, the barbell, is maybe 150 years old. So, but like you said, we used to study the old school bodybuilders, strongmen, and all of these guys a lot, especially Krimek, Steve Reeves, and these guys around before 1950s. Because I think after 1950s, when the steroids started to become popular and all these different supplements and so on, everything started to change. And also although Arnold was already quite athletic and had depth in his methods, but around that time it already started to be more and more superficial and rely more and more on these supplements, more on these very simplistic exercises. Because if you look at the bodybuilders in the past, before 1950s, they were doing the vacuums, they were doing breathing exercises, they were doing the different movements and exercises for the waist and the hips, and and the rib cage. Like they were like focused with so much more depth into their training.
Yeah, and like this for us to think about what people don't realize, that what we think nowadays as obvious, what everyone is doing at the gym, like you have an exercise for your bicep, you have an exercise for your deltoid, you have an exercise for your chest. Like that was not the case when we go 100 years back. Like it's quite incredible, because when I was reading this Sandoz book, I'm not sure if he was, there could have been like some other people maybe developing these exercises, but he was definitely the first one who had a popular book and really popularized this stuff that you could actually train every single muscle like separately. And when I was reading this book, there's some like pretty weird stuff. Like I'm not sure if, some of the exercises trained what he said they would be training, but there was the idea that you could be isolating these different areas in the body. So that was like, that was an incredible invention. Like that took the entire culture like leaps forward from there. And I think that's a very beneficial change, because these guys, like you said, they were not just, the aesthetics came as a big thing, because before that it was only strongmen who were like big, like bear looking guys. And the whole thing about their act was, doing very weird, odd lifts, like the bench press, trying to lift like hundreds and hundreds of pounds in those. And people really didn't care how they looked, as long as they were big, like big looking, like kind of this traditional circus strongman. But the Eugene Sandoz was apparently the first guy to, or one of the first at least, and the most popular guy to start to bring the aesthetics to the game. But the great difference to nowadays, like you said, is that they were still like very functional. They focused on health, and actually one of the main things that they spread was light training with light weights. But
mind-muscle connection.
Yeah, mind-muscle connection as well. And they were like, they was able to do gymnastic skills and all of these different drills, as opposed to just like building
and looking like a big, like a ball of meat.
Yeah.
But even like the Max Sick, who like was talking about the mind-muscle connection a lot already, like over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But we need to remember that before the 2019, like the year, like people they didn't even think bodybuilding was like a smart thing to do. Like, why would you go to the gym and lift some weights because you could work? Like even like this actually how even like old school people nowadays think. Like when I started like training and doing like gymnastics and bodybuilding and calisthenics, my father, who used to be a lumberjack before he retired, like he would always come to me and say like why are you doing this? Let's just go like chop some wood, do some woodwork or something like this. Like what's the point of this? Like he couldn't even understand like why would I do some silly exercises to build my muscle when I can do something practical and something functional. And before, like over 100 years ago, like people were doing the physical labor. They were working a lot in like with their bodies. They were like doing the agriculture and so on. So everyone was already very fit. So I think at the time people didn't even see any point in focusing on the aesthetics and focusing in the building muscle. Like they were mostly focused on athletics, like running really fast and jumping really high and wrestling and stuff. But like I think the modern bodybuilding, it tells a lot about how the human society has developed over the 150 years, because it has become more and more focused on the superficial aspect and more on the aesthetics and more on the like the appearance, when in the past it was all about functionality. And little by little the functionality has like disappeared every year or every decade, like until like 1990s. It's like of course Dorian Yates was still really strong and Ronnie Coleman was also very strong, but little by little it has disappeared, and it's all about just the size of the muscle, the growth of the muscle, and it happens through supplements.
Yeah, I think I have to say like the strength element has, like you said, somewhat carried with them, because there are like guys like the Larry Wheels, for example. A lot of these guys who are big bodybuilders, they have this thing that they want to be kind of man, so they lift super heavy, but there's still not the element of balance or athleticism. It's just the maximal weight, which it's actually like with Ronnie Coleman, like what he's completely destroyed his body, like
that was crazy.
Yeah, but that's what the thing, like they do lift the weights, but they break their bodies with it. But the thing about is that what is nowadays present, like this superficiality, I think that's also it's kind of the show element of it, because in the very, like, if we go back to even, I think I read about some guy who was in the 1700s, like some of the first like strongmen. Like the reason why he became that was because it was like a show.
Yeah, people, for circus.
Yeah, for circus, and not even for necessarily circus, but like people were, even though everyone is kind of strong and doing manual labor, but then you have this guy who's able to like do some, I don't know, lift like incredible amounts of weight and like carry some horses on the back and whatever. Like it becomes, these people actually made money with them. Like I read, like they were like popular among like these, kings and whatever. Like they just want to see the show. So like even there, the big benefit of it was not the health and the strength. It was that you were such a freak that you were actually really like able to make money from it. But of course that transferred to like the physical culture where these people, they took their craft seriously, at least like little by little. So the strong men have a very, I think, long lineage as well. But that's an interesting thing, that it was like this show, and now we're also like the bodybuilding stuff. It's like a show that you go to look, but it's not like about the health. But somewhere in the middle, I think there it was about really becoming this vital, strong, like, I don't know how you, specimen or something.
Yeah, I
like
think in my opinion, the best era was the Steve Reeves and John Grimek. Like they were the best ever, in my opinion. And I remember Steve Reeves, like maybe 30 years ago or 20 years ago, he even made like big statements about the current state of bodybuilding and how it's like in the wrong direction and off the tracks and it's not good and blah, blah, blah. Like you can find it on YouTube. So I think even the old school guys recognize that this is like something has changed and it has become really twisted and really strange sport, which is not healthy at all. Like I just remember seeing the video from the More Plates, More Dates, the Derek. Like he said like lots of these pro bodybuilders, they die at the age of 40 because of their lifestyle.
Yeah, even 30.
Even 30, and some even 20. Like this is from Australia and stuff, like heart attacks and stuff. So when you look at the current bodybuilding and the current fitness, like the whole phenomenon, like the whole industry, and like in the beginning, like we used to be focused on building muscle and looking as fit as possible. But the problem is that like now when we look at the industry and the whole mainstream culture, we think like, what's the point in all of this? Because many people, when they start really getting into bodybuilding and trying to look as strong and big as possible, they think it will be attractive to women. Like lots of men think this. But like over and again, like people know that the most attractive physique is actually the regular surfer guy, fit physique, or the athlete physique, which is like athletic and lean, but that's it. So bodybuilding nowadays is not even achieving the desired outcome, what lots of people are trying to get. Like that's one thing. And another thing is that all of these guys who go to the gym, they lift heavy weights, they think it somehow translates into performance or fighting well. Because deep down, all guys, they kind of want to have this confidence in themselves that they can fight, they can protect themselves, and they can protect other people. And the modern fitness and bodybuilding is not even giving you that. So what are these people actually looking for from the bodybuilding? Because they are not getting the attraction, what they're looking for, and they are not getting better at fighting either.
And very few make even good money with it. So it's kind of like, and it has become this like almost like this emo kind of self-loathing, like it's my cure for depression and my therapy, and I'm dealing with my traumas and stuff. Like it's kind of like it's even hard to understand it completely, because like we are all about the functionality, health, and so on. Well, yeah, you could say like you know, it's some sort of like a passion project for some people, but where does it come from? Like, what do they ultimately they must have in their mind that this is good. Like they perceive like they get something, like they feel good about being, you know, super big or something. Like it must fulfill a place in, I suppose, you know, it's a probably some kind of psychological thing in many cases. You know, some people, they just do like bodybuilding just for the sake of it, or I guess.
I think for some people it's like a real passion. It's like what they love to do, and it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he did bodybuilding before it wasn't even popular. You could clearly see like this guy loves this sport, like actual sport. But
True.
I think a lot of it also
it
like
was art. It was also like these guys, they really took it as an art. Like they build, you know, but today, because I don't see even the artistic aspect so much, because it's like, so it's, I mean, you should like just, you know, maybe ask like an actual, like a modern bodybuilder, what is their thing. But, you know, it's, of course, if you ask from the pro guys, it's probably different than compared to like more like amateur bodybuilders. But
also like the mainstream, I think for the average person, it's a lot about the culture. And the culture is like pushing, like you should do this, you have to do this. Then you like it, then you feel good about yourself. But most people who start are very insecure and have lots of like self-image issues. And the problem, like how we experienced it in the beginning, is that the more you focus on your like muscle in your arm, the more insecure you actually get, because you're never big enough, you're never good enough. Like only after we changed our approach and we started focusing more on the health, functionality and performance, like real the stuff that used to matter like 200 years ago and has always mattered, and less on the appearance.
1,000 years ago.
Yeah, 1,000 years ago.
Like,
and of course, appearance has also mattered, but we started to prioritize like this, all of these other things. Then suddenly we started like self-esteem started to go up, like, and insecurity started to disappear, because the more you focus on your insecurities and the more you focus on the appearance, it's like, of course, maybe for women it's a different thing, but for men it just makes you more like more insecure and more like you are focusing on kind of the wrong thing, because as a man, like nobody cares about really if you have like the perfect skin and the perfect haircut. Like, of course it matters, but it's not the most important thing. But somehow this mainstream culture has made it to be that it's the most important thing. It's to look like the movie star body or something like this.
The Hollywood stuff is, you know, that's the thing. Like everyone watches, everyone is like brainwashing themselves with what they're being fed with. But like that's the issue, is that now the bodybuilders or something, they are like super popular. Like they have millions and millions of, you know, people looking up to them. So that's one of the things I would also assume, that, you know, the other guys, they see like they're so popular, so they must be popular because of their muscles, right? Like so you gotta get that thing. But I think there's the dissonance or some kind of like a distortion maybe, because the body is supposed to represent your prowess, or how do you say, like your capability, your functional performance,
your power.
Yeah, your power, like the masculinity and stuff. But then when we look at the real thing behind just the looks, it's not there. Like you cannot find it. You can't find the ability that we talk about, you know, the fighting or this like a traditional functional arts that would be behind the bodies. But I think it's just like they become these symbols. Yeah, you become the actual statue, you know, the statue that is just looks something but can't really do much. And for somehow people have like mistaken the idol and the looks for what should be behind it. And, you know, I don't know, like it just feels for me and us, because we made the change that you explained. Like I understand people, because I was fully into that aesthetic stuff for a period of time. And this even goes to the beginning where I was talking about, you know, Eugen Sandow, like that. He said directly, I don't know, like he was also a good marketer, so it's hard to sometimes say what is actual true and what is not when he talks about. But he got his inspiration from the Greek statues. So the Greek statues were like so. But the idea is funny, because my obsession with the looks and aesthetics came from somewhere like hundreds of years ago, from the Greek guys who built statues, through Eugen Sandow to the golden era to me. So it's like a crazy thing that sort of thing travels with you. But it was difficult to get rid of it. But you needed to make like that's like even nowadays, of course, I care about the looks. I want to look good, but I know that it can be achieved through healthy means. It can be achieved through not obsessing with size, not trying to do anything like unnatural or injecting something to yourself. Like you can achieve an amazing body. And we have actually like our our athletic bodybuilding methods are a result of the early like 20th century methods, the old school bodybuilding style that still focused on the balance, and it focused on control, actually focused on light weights. So the bodybuilding brought an enormous like progress there that kind of got twisted. But we took further, for example, these methods in the early century that were extremely beneficial. Like there was the real purpose was there. Like you actually like forge your body like in a very quality, in a refined manner with mind-muscle connection by connecting to your body, and at the same time, developing the limber and balanced body that is capable of different movements. Like I think this is the real way, not just to focus on the bloated muscles.
I think how I see is that when we were in this old paradigm of this Western mainstream style, like the more supplements you take, your self-esteem just goes down somehow. Or the more drugs you take, your self-confidence actually goes down. And the more you do the mainstream methods, the more you focus on the appearance, and the more you destroy your body as a result as well. Because many of these modern methods, they really destroy the joints. And as a result, like even when you have problems in your knees, in your back, in your shoulders, your self-esteem and self-confidence actually goes down.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the biggest killers of self-confidence is when you have lots of pain in your body. And that's the problem with the mainstream style of training and the fitness and bodybuilding culture, is that because they're over prioritizing the size and appearance over everything. Like health, like I don't think they even consider it. Like because they're destroying their joints all the time. They're destroying their body all the time. And then they're taking these pre-workouts, which are not healthy. Then they're taking all these supplements, which are not healthy. And in the extreme cases, they're also taking these steroids and HGH and all these growth hormones and everything else. So what happens is that you're more and more messing with your body, you're more and more destroying your body as well. So your self-confidence and self-esteem just goes lower and lower and lower. So that was one of the big discoveries we discovered.
True.
With that.
Yeah, because it's complete contradictory. Like you go into the sport in order to grow your confidence, to maybe increase your status or something, and almost the exact opposite can happen. Like
it will happen.
Yeah, it will happen. Yeah, that's
yes.
Like the people don't realize that the good feeling and confidence in your body, it comes from the very core of your, like a core healthy body, healthy posture, and like you said, pain-free body. Like when I started to do more martial arts and even the mixed martial arts, and you go into wrestling or you do boxing and kicking and stuff like that, and if I had some issue in my body, I was like, crap. Like this, it's a huge like liability. Like you lose your performance if you have any issue there. Like that's it. So if you destroy,
and if you don't lose performance, you lose the confidence to perform.
Yeah, even the confidence. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you can't, like you really lose that, and then you really realize that it's the overall strength and performance that you have. Like that creates the confidence. At least for me. Like of course you can say that your confidence shouldn't be tied into any of this stuff and so on, and on some level that's true. Like if you like lose your legs in an accident or something, you can't, you still have to like push forward and I guess stay strong, but if we look at the confidence based on physicality, it's not based on breaking your body. It should be based on
bulletproofing the body.
Yeah,
the more bulletproof your body, the more confidence you have in your physicality, and the confidence in your physicality transfers directly in the confidence in general. Because I remember, like only 1 year ago, I hurt my shoulder in wrestling, and I hurt it very bad, and it took like 2 months to recover. And I remember walking on the street and I felt very vulnerable and I felt like I couldn't defend myself, I couldn't do anything. So I firsthand experienced it since a very long time that if your body is broken, you are like a kind of like a broken bird or broken animal, and you feel very vulnerable and you feel very like not confident.
Yeah, it's interesting like how tied into it, but I suppose it's partly like subconscious, because in the modern day, like if you walk here, you know, no one's gonna attack you, right? Like you
yeah, but there's a big difference between men and women, because even if it's unlikely to get attacked or robbed, like still women feel lots of
more scared or vulnerable.
They're like 100 times more scared about their like safety and everything else when they walk on the street, especially if they walk alone. Men usually don't feel that, but when you're broken, your confidence goes down as a result as well.
Yeah, but that's what I meant. Like you can't really control it. Like
exactly.
You can think of it in your head. Okay, well, nothing's gonna happen. You know, it's a safe place. It's not some dark alley, but it's still like somewhere there inside you feel like it's like a nature's thing, right? This is what I'm saying, because people could be like it's all subjective. Like it's all like subjective. Like, well, you know, you can be big and still super confident or something. But I think like it's a natural thing. It's there. Like it's not what we made up. Like everyone will feel to an extent it, but a lot of people are completely, how do I say, out of touch with the nature and everything, and people are unconscious.
But no one can run away from nature.
No one can run away.
Subconsciously they feel it.
Yeah,
always.
But if you see like some like guys who maybe, let's say like they're like more skinny, like very skinny, and maybe like more like computer guys, like more like geeky, let's say like this way. Yeah, it's like in a no offense meaning, but it's people who you can see that they have very fragile stature, and you can see it like in their gestures, like you can see it in the posture. I mean, what I'm saying is that they look like they are vulnerable, like they're kind of like this. Their gestures are not confident at all.
Yes.
Like and that's the thing. Like you think like you can escape it, but even if you didn't care and you don't think about, well, there's some dangers coming in. It's in your body, like it's in there and somehow. So that whole training, it affects you whether you are conscious or unconscious about it, and whether you believe it or believe it not. But the health of your body, the posture, and whether you have pains or not, it just affects how you are. And
everything that breaks your body and makes you posture worse, like it will destroy your confidence. And how I see is that this is primarily like a Western phenomenon. It's like, for example, if you go like the Bondi Beach in Australia or the beach in Los Angeles, and then you go Caucasus like Dagestan, it's like two different realities. Like in Dagestan, nobody cares about bodybuilding or having big muscles. It's all about wrestling, being functional, being competent, being dangerous. Like that's so. In different parts of the world, it's completely different. And how I say is that in this Western parts of the world, these people are not actually confident, and they rely on these external supplements, external validation, external everything. They don't have the inner confidence like these people who come from like the different culture.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's such a striking opposite there. Like these guys, like of course the good examples from the UFC, like the Islam and Khabib, but like they don't go around like but they still like like they have confidence, like that because they know what they can do.
Then there's the Conor McGregor, who feels like the most insecure person.
Yeah, actually, who is like this way, like all the time. Like, is he like the guys with the imaginary land syndrome? Like, he is constantly like that guy, and even now, people are debating what he has put into his body, but like growing to all the muscles and stuff is, it's the Western trend. Like he just went like fully 100% into it. Like in every way.
He's kind of the poster boy and the the pinnacle of this Western mainstream. He's like the golden boy of the Western mainstream culture. And it's all about being the flamboyant, being showy, like the showman, being like looking like now he is what the Western mainstream culture wants you to be.
Yeah.
Like he wants like full of tattoos, like just like there's nothing wrong with tattoos, but it's like it's all about getting attention, like being like seeking validation from outside. Of course, not everyone is like this with tattoos and their appearance, but it's largely about, trying to get external validation.
Yeah, I suppose some bodybuilders are also like more towards the introverted side, but still it's I think it's all in the same kind of basket, like this superficiality and trying to like stand out in these ways that do not represent necessarily your real capabilities at all. So
yeah, but how I see is that I think Conor McGregor is going to get wrecked. UFC. It depends on the opponent. If it's like Michael Chandler, he probably can beat him. But any top 5 or top 3 really tough. If he faces any super tough guys who are actually in touch with nature and God and have really the real thing, he will going to get destroyed.
Well, it would seem like the most probable.
Because he has focused too much on the looking like the real thing instead of being the real thing. Like the confidence comes from the being the real thing, being the real deal, and not looking like it.
True.